Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fantastic reading as part of the Texas State University Honors College Summer Reading Series. Tonight we have a special treat for you. It is The Heart of a King by Chris Brown. And now I'd like to bring the cast and crew up to the screen to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Austin Kelly, and I will be playing Queen Elizabeth I.
Hi, my name is Michael Moray, and I'll be playing Robert Dudley.
Hi, my name is Paul Imrani, and I will be playing Roger Ascham, William Cecil, and Francis, the Duke of Anjou.
Hi, my name is Mo McKenzie, and I will be playing Mary Tudor I and Mary Stuart.
Hi, I'm Katie Henderson, and I'll be playing Kat Ashley and Mary Livingston.
Hi, my name is Megan Goodlett, and I will be playing Bess of Hardwick.
Hi, my name is Maddie Wright, and I will be playing Mary Beaton and Mary Fleming.
Hi, I'm Lexi Ganong, and I'll be playing Mary Seton.
Hi, my name is Shane Satterfield, and I'll be playing Francis Walsingham and Thomas Perry.
Hi, my name is Amanda Blake, and I will be reading for the page as well as stage directions.
Hi, my name is Connor Steed, and I am the digital stage manager for this event.
And hello, my name is Chris Brown. I'm the playwright. And thank you all for being here. Just a couple quick things. This project, this is my honors thesis. This is a bare bones first draft. Another quick announcement. We are going to be having a quick 5-minute intermission about halfway through. So that's your time to get up, take a potty break, get some orange juice, all that jazz. So the scenes you're going to be seeing today are vignettes from the life of Elizabeth Tudor that will later on in production be connected by music. So, thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoy The Heart of a King, Trials of Gloriana.
The Heart of a King, Trials of Gloriana by Chris Brown. Act 1. Elizabeth stands in a great room at Hatfield House staring out a window at what seems like nothing. There is a tense silence as Kat Ashley watches from behind her. Thomas Perry enters in a hurry and stops behind Elizabeth.
Milady, we received word from London.
Cecil
Says that Lady Jane Grey has abdicated in favor of your sister Mary.
half-sister.
Yes, milady, half-sister. Northumberland will likely be executed and Mary will accede to the throne.
Now I'm free to make my move.
I would be cautious were I in your position, milady. Regardless of your father's line being restored, Mary is a Catholic.
As I am aware. Very well, it is in my best interest to show support for my sister, but I will also show mine own strength. Prepare for my travel to London. I want no less than 2,000 men dressed in the livery of my grandfather in my party when I arrive.
Of course, milady, it will be done.
Harry goes to leave.
And, Thomas.
Harry stops.
Yes, milady?
Thank you for your loyalty. Tell Cecil the same.
Of course, milady.
He exits.
Do you really think it wise to challenge Mary?
2,000 isn't enough to present a challenge. It is, however, enough to show her that I myself am not without support in this country.
I don't think you need an army to prove that, milady.
My sister is a Catholic. I am the fruit of her mother's downfall. I have no doubt she holds that against me, and believe me when I say I have no intention of being treated as the bastard. As such, I am sure I am seen by her and her supporters. This is not a challenge, but a demand of respect, and as heir presumptive to such respect, I am entitled. I've watched and waited, and now it is time I move. And this is my move.
Then you have my full support, milady.
Elizabeth gives Kat a fond look.
I know, Kat, and for it I am grateful. Now come, we must prepare for travel to London and into the mouth of uncertainty.
Kat bows to Elizabeth and follows her off. Elizabeth and Mary sit in a room by themselves playing cards. They play in silence for some time. The tension is very tense. Mary folds her hand. Elizabeth holds.
I hope you will attend Mass with me today.
I have every intention of attending. But I have not felt well today. I do not think I have the stamina to attend. My physician says I must rest.
Yet here you sit, playing games with me.
I thought it best if I appeared to you in person, my queen.
Have you been ill every day these past weeks? Or do you simply mean to defy your sister and sovereign?
Elizabeth loses control and starts to weep. She throws herself on her sister's lap.
Please, dear sister, I beg you, if all were taken from me but one truth, it is my faith. My faith has kept me alive and sane these last few years. Please, you must understand, you must sympathize, just as your faith is important to you, as is mine to me.
Your faith is the faith of heretics and whores. It is not right and true.
Teach me, then. I know so little about Mass and proper Catholic practices. Please teach me so that I may no longer be in defiance of your wishes.
Very well. Teach you I shall, you poor misguided creature. You will attend the next Mass with me. Now go. Your physician says you need rest.
Thank you, dear sister. I am indebted to you.
Elizabeth smiles to herself as she leaves the room. Scene 2. Elizabeth sits alone in a sitting room. Mary enters looking very pregnant. Elizabeth stands to meet her sister's gaze as she enters. She bows slowly, but keeps her eyes locked onto her sister's. Mary relaxes a little, but is visibly annoyed by Elizabeth's arrogance. After a tense silence, Mary speaks.
How is Woodstock?
Old. But it beats the town.
Yeah.
Mary shoots her sister a look.
I do appreciate you allowing me to maintain my own staff, dear sister. It does make the confines of my prison feel a little more like home.
You look well. Much better than when you were in the tower.
Wrongful imprisonment does have a negative effect on one's health.
Wrongful? You conspired with Wyatt to have me deposed, and yet you stand here and accuse me of wrongfully imprisoning you. Let me remind you that although you no longer sleep in the tower, you are still my prisoner.
Ah, but I am a prisoner who pays for her own house and staff. I'm sure that must count for something.
You are a traitor.
I am innocent of conspiracy.
You are not. I know it. You are sneaky, but you cannot hide the truth from me.
I am innocent of conspiracy.
You cannot fool me the same way you fooled the Renaud.
I fooled no one. Renaud simply realized the truth. There is no evidence of my supposed involvement with Wyatt, and until I am proven guilty, I am innocent of conspiracy.
Mary fumes but doesn't respond.
When are you due?
Mary shoots Elizabeth a dangerous look.
You are playing a dangerous game, bastard.
There is no child, is there?
There is indeed a child.
Is Philip surprised?
Surprised by what?
Surprised that his wife is 2 months overdue and still he is no closer to having an heir.
Mary starts to wail.
Traitor child, fool! I've granted you freedom from the tower, and this is how you repay me? By taunting me? Bringing me nothing but despair? You are nothing. I am queen, and you are but my bastard little sister. You will get your due, little sister, I swear it.
Mary crumples to the ground. Elizabeth switches gears and rushes to her sister.
Your Majesty! Are you hurt? Oh, dear sister, believe me, I meant no harm or disrespect. You are, of course, my sovereign, and I am a faithful Englishman.
Mary pushes her sister away and quickly stands.
Get out of my sight.
Of course, my queen.
She calmly walks to the door. Before she exits, she pauses and turns back to Mary.
Oh, and sister, congratulations on your coming heir.
She bows deeply and exits. Mary watches her leave. Once she is gone, she cries. Scene 3. Elizabeth sits in her study with her tutor, Roger. He reads from parchment as she works on another one of her Latin double translations.
Maybe I should give you more challenging material. Everything you give me is absolutely perfect.
I've been translating Latin for as long as I can remember. It hardly challenges me. At this point, it serves more as a game.
Well, nevertheless, it is a game at which you excel.
A page enters carrying a letter. Pardon the interruption, my lady, but I have an urgent letter from the Queen.
Which member of my household is she going to arrest this time? She should know by now that if I were involved in any plot, she should have found evidence. God knows she's worked hard enough.
She motions for the page to leave.
I will summon you once my response is prepared.
The page bows and quickly exits. Elizabeth reads the letter. When she finishes, she laughs.
Read this.
Roger reads the letter and then gives Elizabeth a confused look.
I don't understand.
She's dying.
Dying? What brings you to that conclusion?
Her health has been in constant decline since her faux pregnancy, and she can't produce an heir, which means Philip can't produce an heir either. And now she writes me at Philip's behest and insists I marry Savoy when one of his Spanish pawns. He knows I will succeed Mary when she goes, and he wants me wed Spanish in order to keep England from a French alliance, as France is currently at war with the Habsburgs. Philip is trying to play long game because his wife, and with her his insurance of Spain's alliance with England, is dying.
Roger chuckles softly.
Do I really have anything left to teach you?
Oh, one can never be finished learning.
How will you respond?
Elizabeth thinks for a moment.
Well, I will decline. I will not become a pawn to Philip as my sister has. Moreover, I've never met this Savoy. What if he is hideous or smells of piss?
They laugh. Elizabeth quickly drafts her letter and seals it. She hands it to Roger.
Give this to the page boy and tell him to make haste. I want this letter to get to Mary before she dies.
As you wish.
He gives a curt bow and goes to exit.
Oh, and send Parry to me.
Elizabeth chuckles to herself.
Oh, telling me who to marry. No, she doesn't know me at all.
She chuckles again as she resumes working on her translation. After a short time, there is a knock on the door, followed by Thomas Parry entering the room. He bows to her.
You wanted to see me?
I need an army. I believe my sister to be not long for this world, and I need to be prepared in case force is necessary in asserting my right to the throne.
I'll make the arrangements.
As always, discretion is of utmost importance. I cannot be implicated until the time comes which the army is required.
It shall be done, my lady.
She nods to him. He bows and exits. She turns back to her translation and takes a breath.
Here we go.
Scene 4. Elizabeth paces in her study at Hatfield. Cat Ashley watches her anxiously.
Will you give it a rest? You're making me nervous.
Elizabeth stops and looks at her.
You nervous? Imagine how I feel.
I'm sorry, milady, but we all know the queen's going to die. She's been ill for weeks. I don't know what's gotten you so riled up.
It is not Mary's impending death that is bothering me, but what comes after.
What do you mean? You'll be queen. That's what comes after.
Is it? Or will I be forced to take the throne by force as Mary herself was?
They are silent for a moment.
I don't want my ascension to be characterized by bloodshed as my sister's reign was. I want to unite this country, not tear it apart.
Thomas Perry rushes in.
Milady, the Queen is dead.
And
the reception is better than we could have imagined. I'll make the arrangements for you to leave as soon as you are ready. It will take time to get to London, however, as the streets are practically overflowing in celebration.
Then we have no time to waste. Cat, make sure my belongings are ready for travel.
Of course, Your Majesty. Long live the Queen.
She exits like a ball of joy. Perry bows deeply to the new queen.
Long live the Queen.
He exits. Elizabeth smiles and then laughs to herself.
Long live the Queen indeed.
She looks over her desk, out the window, beams, and then leaves the room with a striking presence about her. Scene 5. Elizabeth sits in her privy chamber playing cards with her lady maids. Elizabeth is rowdier than the rest of them, but they all play the game with high spirits. There is a knock at the door, and Cat Ashley goes to answer. She runs back to Elizabeth in excitement and whispers in her ear. Elizabeth gasps in delight.
Oh, then let him in.
Cat returns to the door and leads Robert Dudley into the room. He and Elizabeth smile at each other. There is tension. Elizabeth breaks her trance and waves her lady maids out of the room. They hastily exit, leaving Elizabeth and Dudley alone.
It's been so long.
Dudley moves to embrace her. She playfully stops him with her hand.
I am the Queen. Now, you can't touch a monarch without their consent.
And, Your Majesty, may I touch the Queen?
Well, that depends. What are your intentions with said touch?
To greet an old friend.
An old friend? Is that all I am to you? An old friend?
Well, what would you rather I say?
I would have rather you greeted me with more enthusiasm than an old friend.
Fine. I see the sun in your eyes. The fire in your hair brings nothing but fire to mine heart. Is that better?
No, the first attempt killed the mood.
She playfully turns from him. He doesn't really know what to do. He approaches her slowly.
Might I embrace the most beautiful and powerful woman in England?
Oh, very well.
They embrace for a long moment.
We made it, Bess. We survived.
Barely. My sister almost had us both.
She had us both. It's a miracle we were able to survive her tyranny.
Oh, nonsense. You give my half-sister too much credit. They never had the evidence to support her imprisonment of either of us. All she had was speculation and family bonds. Weak claims at best.
Maybe so, but I can imagine you were this nonchalant in prison.
Elizabeth huffs.
And you would know all about my prison behavior.
Well, no, but the guards did talk in the tower. They say you refused to eat, even before you reached London. They say you were frail in body and weak in body, but your mind and spirit as sharp as ever.
Elizabeth was skeptical of where this story was headed, but she's warming up to it.
Yes, I even heard that, despite impossible circumstances and unknowable outcomes, the only words you would say were, "I'm innocent of conspiracy."
Elizabeth gives him a playful look.
What else did you expect from the most powerful woman in the country?
Dudley steps closer to Elizabeth.
May I touch the Queen?
Elizabeth initiates an embrace, answering his question. They stay there for a little before Dudley pulls away.
Have you thought more about what the propositions of the council?
Ugh, there's always something with you.
Bess, it's a serious issue.
I will not discuss marriage.
Not even to...
Especially not to Philip of Spain. I will not to Catherine of Aragon myself. It is beneath me. Plus, I've met Philip. I will not be a submissive Catholic bitch. He won't walk all over me like he did Mary.
What about another suitor? Someone English with a decent rapport with the people. A nobleman from the Privy Council, perhaps.
And just who did you, from my Privy Council, do you expect me to marry? Cecil?
Me.
Elizabeth laughs, but then realizes he is serious.
You?
Why not me?
Dudley, I am a prince, you are not. It has never been done before, and it cannot be done now.
Bess, at least consider
No,
it.
I'm finished with this conversation.
Bess, all I was...
Dudley is stunned for a moment, but ultimately accepts. He bows to her, but she isn't looking.
As you wish, Bess.
Elizabeth sinks back into her card chair and pouts. Scene 6. Elizabeth and her Privy Council are meeting. Elizabeth sits at the head of the table, either angry or disinterested. William Cecil stands to address the group.
It is time we discuss the matter of Her Majesty's marriage.
Why? What is so pressing about my being married that it needs to be discussed now?
Your Majesty, the country has had too many bouts over the succession of late. The quicker you secure an heir, the easier the country will rest. There are, after all, no tutors after yourself.
I am not yet 30. You expect me to die so soon?
With all due respect, your brother died at 15.
My brother was sickly and weak. I am not. I will not discuss it further.
Your Majesty.
I said I will not discuss it.
You must at least look at the suitors.
She said no, Cecil. Are you so bold as to not go against the direct wishes of our queen?
I was sworn to advise the queen how I see fit, even if the advice was unpleasant to her ear.
Unpleasant is an understatement, I would say.
Enough, Dudley! Do you not think me capable of speaking for myself? I'm more than capable of defending my own position.
After a tense pause, Dudley sits down.
You must at least hear the offers.
Fine, but know that I will make no decision today.
First offer, of course, is Philip II of Spain.
Accept that decision. It's a no. Tell him no. Nicely, of course.
I assume so. There are several others who would provide lucrative and advantageous political alliances both for yourself and for England.
Well, go on then. Don't make this last longer than it must.
Right. The next prospect is Eric of Sweden. Protestant heir to the throne, will provide England with a continental ally, since your rejection of Philip will no doubt make our Spanish relations...
Who else, Cecil? Just give me a list.
Of course. The next most promising are Charles Francis of Austria and Sir William Pickering.
Is that it?
No, but those are the most promising.
Excellent! That is all I want to hear of it.
She stands.
Is there any more pressing business that needs your queen's ear?
As a matter of fact...
Excellent! We are adjourned.
She exits hastily as all the men at the council rush to a standing position. The men file, confused, out of the chamber, leaving only Cecil and Dudley. They look at each other knowingly.
I can't make her do something she doesn't want to do.
Dudley, she must make a decision. She can't keep dodging the subject. The country needs to know its future is secure.
I can talk to her, Cecil. That's all I can promise.
And by all means, please do.
They bid each other farewell, nods, and exit the chamber. Scene 7. Elizabeth sits in her study, hastily working on double translations. Dudley knocks on the door as he enters the room.
Bess?
I will not discuss it.
Bess, you need to confront marriage sooner or later.
Why? Why must that be the first thing I choose in my reign? Does my council not trust me to rule in my own right?
It's safe. Marriage will keep your line secure. It will keep the country secure.
What proof have you of this? My father married 6 times, and his line is as turbulent as the Plantagenets. My sister married, and she spent 4 years as a pawn of Spain and the Pope before she died. I have half a mind not to marry at all.
Then marry someone you trust, someone who you know will support you and not try to undermine you.
Like you, is that where this is going?
Dudley doesn't speak.
I will hear no more of marriage today.
Bess,
no more!
They stay silent for a short period. Elizabeth doesn't look at Dudley, but she also doesn't resume her translations.
May I hold the queen?
Elizabeth relents and rises. Dudley hugs her from behind. They stay like this for a bit.
Why must I constantly be lectured by men who know nothing of me, Dudley?
I suppose that's the job.
I suppose you're right.
They chuckle for a couple of seconds.
England is a mess.
The two laugh together for a little bit.
I'll hear the suitors out, but I won't make any decisions. I suppose I can't put it off for forever.
I think that's a very wise decision.
Mind yourself, I might yet change my decision.
Because of silly old me.
Ha!
Elizabeth laughs boldly. She leaves the embrace and turns to face him.
I must return to my translations.
Are they that pressing?
More pressing than marriage, I'm afraid.
Very well then, I'll take my leave.
He turns to leave.
Dudley.
Yes, Bess?
Visit me later. I enjoy your company.
Until later, my queen.
Scene 8. Elizabeth and Cecil sit at a small table playing cards.
And that, my friend, is victory.
Once again, my queen, you've beaten me.
I hope you aren't just letting me win.
I've beaten you many times before.
It's different today. In the time it usually takes us to complete 2 matches, I've beaten you in 5.
I suppose I'm just having an off day.
You're distracted, Cecil. What news is it that I don't want to hear?
Right to the point, I see.
Elizabeth gives a pointed look.
Yes, well, we've just received word that your cousin, Mary, has returned to Scotland to assume her throne.
I thought she was in France.
She recently became a widow.
Huh.
What are you thinking?
She'll need our help to keep her throne.
I fear she has a different opportunity that may seem more enticing.
Like what?
She's a direct descendant of your grandfather, and she is a Catholic. And since there are some Catholics in this country who still see you as...
If you say bastard, I will have you banished.
Of course you aren't, but there are those who reject your sovereignty.
Those people are nothing but mindless slaves to the Pope.
While I agree, I think we need to be careful when interacting with her.
What do you suggest?
Perhaps the best course of action is to gain the indisputable advantage. Make sure the people who don't trust you have no choice.
Dodge, Cecil.
You need to be married.
I am sick and tired of being told I must marry. Who am I to wed? Any Englishman will treat the marriage as a transition of power to his family, and any foreigner will either ensure the English public sees me as nothing more than a puppet, like my sister, or they are Catholic, and that would make the majority of the population would have a fit.
There's always Dudley.
Cecil, I can't marry Dudley.
Why not? He's an English noble, a Protestant, and you obviously share a bond.
I will not marry Dudley.
You changed your response, my queen.
I did no such thing.
You first said you can't marry him, and now you say you won't marry him. As your advisor, I must ask which one is most true.
He isn't royalty. The court doesn't trust him. It will look like he's only courting me for the power.
Would they be correct?
Does it matter?
I think it does.
Not to the people.
They are quiet for a moment.
I suppose my other option is to have her married.
You wish to arrange your cousin's marriage?
I want to marry her to someone in court, somebody English with unwavering loyalty to the crown.
Who do you suggest?
Dudley.
Dudley?
He would do anything for me. He is completely devoted.
Are you sure you want him permanently by the side of another woman?
I've made up my mind, Cecil. It's the best decision to make.
Very well. I'll inform the Privy Council.
Let me tell Dudley first.
Very well. I'll let you address the council.
Thank you.
Cecil nods his head to her before moving to stand.
Cecil.
He stops. She starts dealing the cards and smirks at him.
One more round before we go.
Cecil chuckles and sits back down at the table. Scene 8. Elizabeth and Dudley stroll through the gardens quietly, arm in arm. At some point, Dudley makes an awkward noise and dodges something in the path. He then shoots a glare towards the ducks by the fountain.
I hate ducks. They always shit in my way.
Come off it, Robert. They don't know any better.
Why can't they just do it in the grass?
Why can't you just watch where you're going?
I'll turn this into a lecture, Bess.
Oh, a lecture? Me? I would never.
Of course you wouldn't. Why did you want to see me?
I wanted to spend time with you. And? What do you mean, and?
You're acting dodgy. There's always an ulterior motive when you're acting dodgy.
I don't remember having an ulterior motive yesterday when I saw you, or the day before.
There you go again, dodging the question.
Fine, you know me too well.
So why did you summon me?
I want you to marry the Queen of Scots.
Dudley stops and stares at Elizabeth.
I know you don't want to marry me, but you don't have to send me to Scotland.
I don't not want to marry you.
Then why don't you?
I cannot marry you.
That's...
I need someone with undying loyalty to myself and the crown, married to my cousin, to keep Scotland within our circle.
I don't want to marry the Scottish Queen.
You are the only person I trust enough to be in this position.
Bess, you would send me away if I were to become consort, or I couldn't just return to you whenever I please.
This is my best bet to keep her at bay.
At bay? Didn't she just get to Scotland?
She's a Catholic descendant of my grandfather. Some of the Catholics in this country still regard me as illegitimate.
But how do you know her intentions are malice? She hasn't ever even written to you yet, has she?
No, but Cecil thinks...
Frankly, I don't care what Cecil thinks.
Well, I do.
Do I not get a say in deciding who I marry?
Not unless you want to end back up in the tower.
I don't think you could put me there.
Why are you being so belligerent? I asked you to do one thing for me.
You asked me to leave you and marry a woman I don't love.
We don't all get to marry for love. That's not the reality of nobility.
Some of us don't get to marry at all.
Was that a slight?
An observation.
Tread lightly.
I don't want to leave you.
This isn't any easier for me. You know how I feel, but I cannot risk another Tudor power struggle. Not with the sheer volume of Tudor power struggles this country has had to endure in recent years.
I respect that. But if you were married to an Englishman, maybe the threat of being viewed as illegitimate wouldn't be so prominent.
That's what Cecil said.
I've had half a mind to take it back.
But who would you have me marry?
Me, Bess. You know the answer is me.
And you know that you are not royalty. I cannot marry you, and I doubt you want me with anyone else.
I want you to be happy. You're happy with me. I can see it.
If you want to make me happy, then marry the Queen of Scots.
Dudley is silent for a moment.
Is that it?
I'm not changing my mind. I'll present the plan to the Privy Council when the opportunity presents itself, but until then, I just want you to be prepared.
Dudley takes Elizabeth's arm and they continue walking.
Then we might as well make the most of what little time we have.
They continue their walk off stage in a tense silence. Scene 9. Elizabeth sits at a desk stage right. Cecil and Dudley stand on the other side of her, looking on as she finishes writing a letter.
How's this?
Very nicely done.
Let me see.
The Master of Horse doesn't read the Queen's correspondence.
It's about my marriage.
You already know what it says then.
Children!
Dudley takes the moment to finally free the letter from Cecil. Cecil watches him read it.
Very well then, Bess.
Elizabeth swipes the letter and hands it to Cecil.
I'll send it right away.
He exits to send the letter. Lights come up on Mary Stuart and the four Marys on stage left. Mary sits at a desk reading a letter while the four Marys stand behind her, each in a fierce bevel.
I cannot.
Oh my god, what?
I just got a letter from my cousin, the Queen of England.
Bitch, no way. Spill.
What's England?
They take a hot second to glare at Mary Seddon.
Well, don't leave us in suspense.
Okay, listen to this.
She stands and adopts a mocking stance.
My dearest cousin, firstly, you have my deepest condolences regarding the passing of your late husband. I understand this transition period may be very difficult for you as an unwed female monarch. For this reason, I propose my favorite, Robert Dudley, Earl of the Leicester, to be your husband. Oh, should you wed him, England and I would be happy to help protect you in Scotland. Your marriage would ensure a safe and stable relationship between our two nations. Give it a ponder and get back to me as soon as you can. Your beloved cousin, Elizabeth I.
Girl, is that really what it says?
More or less.
But wait, did she just offer you aid and protection?
Only if I marry her favorite.
Oh, so she's offering help and you get to steal her man? Sweetie, I call that a win.
I do not want her favorite. She's trying to keep me under her thumb.
So what does that mean for you?
Oh, I know this one.
Mary Fleming rolls her eyes. She knows a stupid answer is on the way.
It means Elizabeth is mean.
Mary Fleming was correct.
No, it means she sees me as a threat.
I haven't decided if I think that's a good position or a very dangerous position. I think both.
Both indeed. All right, girls. Now I must reply.
The four Marys gather closer as Mary Stuart prepares to write her response.
My beloved cousin, dear friend, and jaded, cold-hearted snake.
I don't like snakes.
Girl, you can't send that.
Wait, what's a snake?
They ignore that one.
My dearest cousin, I accept and appreciate your condolences, but would remind you that I'm not the only one of us in a predicament. As it stands, you are unwed and have produced no heir for England. I would be honored to marry your favorite, so long as you name me heir to the throne. That was that.
I say shorten it.
Oh, fine. All right, what about this? My dearest cousin, I will happily marry your favorite, but only if you may name me England's heir. Kisses, Cousin Mary.
Is that really what you wrote?
And more or less.
Okay, bitch, send that shit out and stir the fucking pot. I'm so excited.
Mary, shit in a pot? Nasty.
Mary Fleming rolls her eyes at Mary Stuart, hands her the letter. Mary Fleming leaves in the same style as Cecil. Lights down on Scotland's side of the stage as lights come back up in England. Elizabeth paces in front of her desk as Cecil and Dudley watch on.
Heir. Who does she think she is, trying to make herself my heir? She's been on this continent for all of 2 seconds, and already she makes a play for the English crown. The nerve, she might as well have spit in my face.
I thought the letter had a rather pleasant undertone.
Pleasant? Can you not read? She may as well have just called me a jaded snake.
I'm trying to find the benefit of the doubt. I'm the one marrying her, after all.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but judging by the tone of that letter and the nature of her request, that doesn't seem likely.
How am I supposed to respond to that?
I say take the high road. Reaffirm your devotion as cousins and push the marriage once more.
I say war. She's a Catholic. The Pope is probably already scheming ways to have you replaced.
War over a letter. Do you take me for a fool?
I really don't want to marry her.
Cousins it is.
She sits at her desk and begins to write.
Dear Mary, you pompous, presumptuous swine.
Majesty.
Too much?
Maybe a tad light, actually.
My dearest cousin, I will not be naming an heir at this time, but I do politely insist that you indeed marry my favourite Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester. I believe it will benefit both our kingdoms if we love and respect each other as family and as sister monarchs. Your beloved cousin, Elizabeth I.
I think that sounds lovely.
Is that really what you wrote?
Well, more or less.
I'll send it right away.
As he takes the letter, Elizabeth erupts into a coughing fit. Cecil and Dudley look at her wearily.
Do you maybe want to reconsider the whole heir thing?
Oh, come off it. It's just a tickle.
Cecil exit and the lights take us back to Scotland. Mary Stuart and Mary Fleming, Beaton and Livingston are gossiping and giggling. Mary Seton comes in with a letter. She holds it proudly in the air but says nothing.
Something we should know?
A letter?
They wait for her to tell them who sent the letter. Girl, Mary Seton doesn't remember. Are you kidding?
Well, from whom did the Queen receive a letter?
No, silly. The Queen sent the letter. Mary received it.
Oh my god, bitch, it's Elizabeth.
Hand it over.
She takes the letter and reads it to herself.
Oh, what a kiss ass. She basically just said, how about we still do my thing, but none of your things. Just my thing. Or war.
No way.
You girls look for yourselves.
She hands the letter to Mary Fleming. The Marys read it silently over Fleming's shoulder.
Wait, where's the war part?
Yeah, this actually sounds really nice.
Subtext.
It's such a shame, too. The guy who gave me the letter said she was sick. But she was so nice.
Sick?
Yeah, he said she had to wear this big, ugly bag on her head so people wouldn't see her bloated pimples. And they said she hasn't left her room in, days.
Did he tell you what the name of the ailment was?
No, we didn't talk about ale.
What's that thing people do when they cover half their mouth so people can't see them whisper?
He was on the job. He only told me that her sick was smallpox.
You mean smallpox?
No, I'm pretty sure it was box.
Girl, I don't give a shit what it is. She's sick.
Truly an outstanding turn of events. Henry's kids just can't stay healthy, can they?
Wait a minute. She isn't married yet, is she?
Bitch.
Oh, honey, God really said Scottish Queen of England.
Wait, why isn't she married?
She's a paranoid prude, that's why.
Well, time to write back.
The girls laugh as Mary nicely and quickly drafts a letter.
Okay. My dearest cousin, Cordial, nice, and important. Here we go. We are happy to grant your request and marry your favorite, should you name us heir. We do not presume to make a play at your throne, as rumor says you may think, and we wish you nothing but a long, happy, and prosperous life, void of all sickness or ailment. Love and admiration, your dearest cousin Mary. Or something like that.
I love that. I'll send it straight away.
Back to England. You know the drill. Elizabeth sits in her bed as she reads the letter. She is dressed as someone who has smallpox, but also money. Only Dudley is with her in her bedchamber. He lays next to her on the bed. She lets out a screech.
Cheeky whore! Who told I was sick?
What?
Read this.
She gives the letter to Dudley, which he reads.
Pardon me, but hot damn.
That sneaky bitch thinks I'm going to die.
Well, how do you feel?
Angry!
No, I mean physically.
I feel my entire body seethe with rage. I refuse to die, Dudley.
I completely believe you'll pull through this, but I don't really think you can beat the pox just by force of will.
Just watch. I'm the Queen of England. I will do what I damn well please.
She tears at the letter.
I will not have her take my throne from me.
Well, we've certainly settled on that one, haven't we? Do you mean to reply?
Let Cecil draft a reply. I'm too angry. Don't have the ambassador and his company take it to her without my permission, though. I want to know what she is reading.
And his company?
Oh, yes. I was supposed to go visit her. Meet face to face, but obviously I cannot go, so I've instructed everyone to pretend I'm fine and not sick.
Whatever works.
My thoughts exactly.
She waves Dudley away.
Now hurry up and go.
Dudley takes her hand and kisses it. They smile at each other, and then Dudley leaves. End of Act 1.
All right. So now we're going to take a 5-minute intermission. Like Chris Brown said, go get your orange juice and all that other stuff. And we'll be back here about 8:57. So see you all in 5 minutes. And welcome back. I hope your orange juice was satisfying. And now for the exciting conclusion of The Heart of a King, The Trials of Gloriana.
Act 2. Elizabeth and Dudley are in Elizabeth's study. She sits at her desk reading letters, while Dudley busies himself by fiddling with things. Dudley purposely drops as an attempt to get Elizabeth's attention, but nothing works. He sighs.
You're boring.
I'm working.
You're reading.
I am busy being the Queen of England. If you want something to do, perhaps you can do your job as a member of the Queen's Privy Council and counsel her.
Fine then, let me read the letters so I know of what you need counsel.
You cannot read the letters, they are addressed to the Queen.
Then how am I to counsel you?
You may counsel me by answering what questions I have for you with complete honesty.
But you haven't been asking me questions.
Then I suppose your job is to wait patiently and silently until I do.
Dudley gives her that, "Oh, cute, I see what you did there" look before flopping down in the nearest chair.
Cheeky.
Elizabeth chuckles to herself. She has won again. It is silent for a hot second. Every once in a while, Dudley would let out a sigh or a loud breath. Finally, the silence gets to him.
So, what do you think
I have not asked you a question.
Bess, please, I'm suffocating in nothingness over here.
Elizabeth considers, then gives him a coy look.
Fine, speak away.
What do you think of cumulus?
I thought it was magnificent. You truly did pull out all the stops.
Dudley stands and goes to Elizabeth. He leans on the back of her chair.
How did it make you feel?
Elizabeth blushes at the memory.
It made me feel...
The letter she is reading distracts her from her happiness. The farther she gets into the letter, the darker her face gets. Dudley can't see her face, but he can feel her energy shift.
Bess?
It would be wise not to invade the space of a queen.
Dudley makes an "oh shit" face as he backs away from the chair.
Bess, are you...
He is cut off by her crumpling up the letter. Dudley takes a couple more steps back.
Who?
Why did it have to be her?
Bess, who
Do you think she is more beautiful than me?
Dudley realizes what is going on.
No, of course not, Bess. You are the most...
Do not lie to your queen! It is treason!
I have never lied to you.
No, of course not. You just betrayed my trust by impregnating that trollop! Did you think this would make me jealous enough to finally marry you? Is that your game?
No.
No? Is that all you have to say? You knew this would make me angry. You knew I wouldn't approve of her, so you went off and fucked her just to set me ablaze? Why would you do such a stupid, reckless, selfish...
Selfish? Bess, I love you. I turned Kenilworth into a spectacle for you, and you still wouldn't marry me. After all I've done for you, after all we've endured, I need somebody in my life who doesn't keep pushing me away.
I do not push you away. I give you everything.
You won't let me love you. You have solidified your position as queen. You have squashed your competition in Scotland, yet you still deny me your hand.
We've had this conversation. Amy...
Those rumors are long dead, Bess.
Even so, my monarchy is at risk. You are not the most popular nobleman in this country, and if I were to marry you...
Anyway.
Excuse me?
Needless and I have already met.
Elizabeth is taken aback.
Then I am truly betrayed.
Bess.
Get out.
Now Dudley is taken aback. He is frozen.
Get out!
Please, my love,
Do not mock me! You have made your choice. I don't want to see you, and I never want to see your wench in my court again. I am the queen, the only queen in England, the only sun that shines on this land. That woman is nothing. She's not my equal.
Elizabeth storms out of the room. Dudley runs after her.
Bess, please, she isn't trying to challenge you. Wait!
New scene. Cecil and Elizabeth walk together in the gardens of one of Elizabeth's palaces. They're in a good mood.
It feels as though for the first time I'm in charge of my own life.
I hate to say this, my queen, but you can hardly rest now. Now you are going to be scrutinized more harshly than ever.
Oh, don't ruin my good mood, Cecil. I just meant that I don't have to pretend to be loyal to some half-sibling or brother-in-law about whom I could not care less.
Ah, yes, but now you must contend with an entire kingdom. And that, Your Majesty, is an entirely different game.
That's why you're here, Cecil. You're going to help me navigate the petty and fickle world of politics.
It will be my pleasure, Your Majesty.
I know, Cecil. I can always count on you.
Unfortunately, you can also count on me to be the bearer of bad news.
I'm not in the mood for bad news.
We need to start thinking about your marriage.
Cecil, we are not in council at this moment, and I will not discuss the matter unless I absolutely must.
Very well, my queen. It is, however, pressing. We will have to discuss it soon.
Well, soon's not now. I do not want to hear any more of this today.
As you wish.
They walk in silence for a moment before Cecil decides to try his hand at humor.
Lovely weather we're having.
I got enough sass from Dudley. I don't need any from you.
Be careful of that one.
Dudley? He's my oldest friend, Cecil. Why would you say such a thing?
It's quite obvious that he wants your hand.
I'd have half a mind to accept him if you were not already married.
That brings me to another bit of bad news.
Cecil?
Amy Dudley is dead.
Oh, dear. Was she ill?
She was found at the base of her staircase. It appears that she fell.
Do not.
Or was pushed.
Who would do that? She was not important or influential.
She was the main obstacle on Dudley's route to you.
You cannot think Dudley did this.
Dudley did what?
My friend, you have my deepest condolences.
For what?
You mean you don't know?
I told you.
Know what?
Your wife is dead.
Dudley isn't as affected by this as he should be.
I'm not sure what to say.
Did you do it?
What? No, I didn't even know she was sick.
He doesn't even know the cause of death. Cecil, let this ridiculous accusation go.
Wait a moment. How did my wife die?
She was found at the bottom of a staircase.
Cecil is insinuating that you pushed her, which is impossible, given that you have been by my side since I named you Master of Horse.
How dare you? Do you mistrust me so much?
I don't personally believe you had any hand in it, but I worry for the Queen's reputation. There are already rumors surrounding the two of you, and a scandal like this so early in her reign will rock the Queen's entire tenure.
This is ridiculous.
There are those who will think you killed your wife so you could be free to marry the Queen.
Cecil, stop this madness.
No, Cecil has a point.
And what point is that?
Scandal brought the death of my mother and Catherine, and unpopular public opinion plagued my sister until her death. I cannot let myself fall into the same trap.
All they have are rumors. Unless we marry, nothing will come of it.
Lester, you are too close.
You are too close to the Queen. People notice. People have noticed.
Bess, please tell him how ridiculous he sounds.
I think you should go.
What?
You cannot stay at court with the threat of such a scandal looming.
Bess, I can't leave you. Not when you're still fighting for dominance in your own government.
Do not presume to tell me what dominance I do or do not hold. I am the queen. As queen, I cannot risk unfounded rumors undermining my sovereignty when the Catholics of this country are already attempting the same thing.
Yes, unfounded.
Do not mock me.
Dudley, I think it would be best if you take your leave of court.
Dudley looks at Elizabeth expectantly.
I've made up my mind.
Dudley sighs, defeated.
I'll have your transport made ready,
Cecil bows to the Queen.
Your Majesty.
Cecil exits.
This is just as hard for me.
Dudley scoffs quietly.
This is only temporary.
It's pointless.
You know better than to mock my judgments, and do not try to make me believe that you disagree. You are smarter than that.
We've had to fight for the last 5 years just to keep breathing. And now, and this is what it comes to. Can't even enjoy freedom.
I am a servant of this country. You are a servant to me. Neither of us are free to act as we please.
They are silent for a moment.
May I at least kiss the Queen goodbye?
Elizabeth is hesitant, but extends her hand. Dudley kneels and kisses it.
And now you leave. Travel safely, Dudley.
Dudley rises, takes one last look at the Queen, then leaves. New scene. Mary Stuart sits in a large chair in her prison bedchamber, while the four Marys lounge around the room. Someone reads, someone knits, the others just stare at nothing. They all look bored.
I want a pet horse.
Oh, this is so annoying.
Girl, tell me about it. Thinking up revenge schemes from prison without trying to implicate you in them for fear that you'll finally be executed for treason is tough.
Why are we even here? Didn't good Queen Bess say she was going to protect you?
Not officially.
That hoe's just mad because she has no children and your son is the next in line for the throne.
At least she let us stay with you.
Oh yeah. Ladies, I'm having the time of my life. Well, what are you going to do about it? We can't just stand here and take it.
Of course not.
Open revolt obviously won't work.
Not if I have no title, army, or freedom.
Don't a lot of Catholics see you as the legitimate heir to the English throne, though?
Not enough to make a difference. Besides, we know nobody.
What are your other options?
We can challenge her to ultimate checkers.
They all give her that, girl, you've got to be kidding, look.
Ugh, dumbass.
Absolutely not.
Checkers.
Sorry.
What happened to all that family has to stick together shit that she used to preach?
I married Henry instead of her boy toy, the Earl of Leicester, and I presume it just went downhill from there.
I still can't believe you wanted him to marry you.
She wanted to control me. She still does, but she failed.
She says from house arrest under which Elizabeth put her.
They all give her angry and pointed looks.
I'm just keeping it real.
Aren't they, high-key having sex?
Drama.
Bitch, I've got it! You can't, actually find her, but you can stir the pot.
What are you suggesting?
This thing. All we have to do is start up some old rumors, and her popularity will tank.
Interesante.
Girl, why is she still single? Why hasn't she produced an heir? Does she not care about us? Oh no, she cares more about canoodling with her love affair. The Catholics get mad again.
Boom! Mary Stuart is the new most popular woman in England.
Sneaky, but that seems pretty ineffective.
You kidding? Drama works every time. Scotland is a shit show and we are in prison. Drama won't get us free. Oh, come on! Your neighbor is married to Bess of Hardwick. Next to Liz, she's like the most popular bitch in the country. I'm sure she can stir shit up.
Does anyone have any better suggestions?
We could always send coded messages to Catholic sympathists and hatch a plan to have the Queen assassinated so that people will look to you in the power vacuum because you're the next legitimate Tudor heir.
Girl, has she been smart this whole time?
Let's go with that one!
She pulls out a paper and starts writing.
Can we spread gossip just for fun then?
Fine. I will make sure my gossip reaches Bess of Hardwick.
Yes! Girls, there may be hope for us yet.
The girls giggle together as Mary schemes. New scene. Frances and Elizabeth sit in a sitting room enjoying afternoon tea. Elizabeth is happy. So is Frances.
My queen, I've so enjoyed this time with you. I feel reborn in your beauty every time I visit you.
Oh, Francis, you flatter me.
I mean it. You make me very happy.
As do you.
They grab hands and chuckle for a moment before Elizabeth pulls away.
But I am plagued with insubordination. Many in my country and in my court do not feel it is right that I entertain the idea of marrying you.
It is because I'm a Catholic, I understand.
Well, your being French isn't exactly helpful either, but I want you to know that I don't care what they think. I like the way you make me feel. Young, beautiful, wanted. And I don't care that you're Catholic or French. I just care that you feel the same way about me.
Of course I do. You are like the sun, beautiful, bright and radiant. Seeing you is like being awoken from a nightmare, like sunset or a sunrise on the darkest of nights.
Elizabeth giggles.
My lord, the Queen says nobody is to interrupt.
Dudley bursts through the door, followed closely by Bess of Hardwick. Elizabeth shoots out of her seat and holds Dudley in an epic stare. Bess shrinks.
I'm so sorry, Your Majesty.
His indignation and lack of respect is not your fault. You may go.
Thank you, my queen.
She bows and heads for the exit. At the door, she stops and turns back to Elizabeth.
And good luck.
She exits.
You can't marry him.
You storm into my chambers, interrupt my private tea, and dare tell me what I can or cannot do? Have you learned nothing about me?
He isn't good for you.
You gave up your right to say what is good for me. Remember when you knocked up Lettice Knollys?
For you as a queen, the people hate him. If you marry them, they'll see it as a slight to their values.
Fuck the people! I have sacrificed so much of myself to keep this country from going to shit. The least they can do is allow me this small bit of happiness.
Is that what you want? Cheap affirmation masquerading as happiness in exchange for the support of your entire country? You have no heirs, Bess. You are the perfect target for a coup, and this marriage would be an easy first step on the route to ending up exactly like your cousins from Scotland.
Elizabeth slaps him hard. Frances is shook.
You are pathetic. If you can't have me, nobody can, is that right?
You're being selfish, Bess. That's something a smart queen can't afford to do. Cecil agrees.
Don't bring Cecil into this. He's not here. He did not storm into my sitting room to do nothing but cut me down. You are out of line.
I agree with Elizabeth. I think you should leave now.
I do not take orders from you.
Get out!
Dudley sizes her up, scoffs, then exits the room.
My queen, are you all right? I cannot believe the nerve of that man. He is a petty, rude, selfish oaf who does not deserve even a fraction of your attention. You are the most magnificent creature in the world. You must know that. He is nothing but an insignificant, power-hungry...
Right.
What?
You can't know how much it breaks my heart to say this, but he's correct about the country. About the anger that will grow against me should we marry.
My dear, you
I know, but everything he said has been lingering in the back of my head for quite some time now.
So, what does this mean?
It means I cannot marry you. The time we spent together has meant the world to me. Please know that. While I must do this for my country and for myself, I will cherish you and all you've given me as long as I live.
Then I suppose this is goodbye.
I suppose it is.
Francis kneels and kisses her hand. He then rises and bows.
I do not think I will ever meet anyone as radiant, as witty, or as strong as you. You will forever have a place in my heart.
He exits the room opposite side of Dudley. Elizabeth takes a hot second to herself, then looks at the door Dudley used.
Have you lost all regard for my will?
Dudley opens the door that he had cracked open sometime during the emotional goodbye and steps into the room. They hold a tense silence.
You know, I could have your head for that stunt you just pulled.
I do. Will you?
Not this time.
She sits in her tea chair, dejected. Dudley sits in the other chair.
Bess, I know this must be hard.
Do not gloat to me, Dudley. I could still change my mind about your head.
Do you remember when you were young and Catherine Howard had just been executed? Do you remember what you said to me? You vowed that day you would never marry.
That certainly did not deter your advances.
That isn't my point.
Then get to it.
My point is, you have worked too hard to throw it all away now. Look at what you've done on your own. Look at all that you have built. You've dodged threat after threat and come out stronger for it. You've made England stronger as well. I can't think of another person with the will and spirit that's strong or tenacious. Your sister didn't have it. Your cousin doesn't have it. You are a guiding light, Bess. And I loved you too much to let you walk away from that.
Elizabeth puts her hand out on the table. Dudley waits a moment and then takes it. They sit for a moment, hand in hand.
Why would I be without you, Lester?
And Dudley laughs.
Now tell me honestly, how much of this did Cecil tell you to say?
New scene. Elizabeth is being dressed by Bess of Hardwick. Bess is tightening Elizabeth's corset as Elizabeth watches the action in the mirror.
Do you think I'm beautiful?
Of course, Your Majesty.
Be honest. I do not want your pity.
Your beauty is unmatched.
The English would disagree with you. You, in fact, are touted as one of the most beautiful people in England.
Your Majesty, your beauty is spoken of across the world.
I do not believe you. I hear what people say. Faced with so much rejection, Dudley abandoned his search for power and married for beauty instead. Elizabeth fears the Scottish Queen because she possesses the beauty and fertility Elizabeth herself never will.
Is that all you hear?
All that matters.
I hear the Scottish Queen is jealous of the strength and power of the English Queen. I hear that, regardless of her lack of husband, Elizabeth has ruled England with the strength and will of any man.
Jealousy aside, even in prison there is talk of her trying to take my throne.
Do you really think that, even if she did try, she would be successful?
I do not know what I think. Catholics in this country are still less than willing to break from the Pope.
Is that what you want?
I could care less whether or not people care about the Pope. Does it really matter whether we are Catholic or Protestants? We all worship the same God.
But that isn't how the Pope sees things.
Which means England needs a Protestant government in order to keep the Pope from practically ruling the world.
An interesting dilemma.
A tired dilemma.
Sounds to me like you have more important things to worry about than beauty.
Do not play naive. If I do not possess beauty, nobody will listen to me. A female monarch is expected to fit a certain narrative, and I have already deviated too far from that narrative to not be beautiful. Besides, men will be far less willing to marry an ugly monarch.
Is marriage what you want?
Yes. Or rather, I want the happiness that comes with marriage.
Do you and the Earl of Leicester not already share that happiness?
We did once, I think.
What happened?
You chose someone more beautiful than me.
Is that why he chose her?
I think so.
Well, I think she was available.
I am available. Do not mock me.
I apologize, my queen, but you are certainly not available. Not to him, at least. Your heart, maybe, but not your position.
How can I give someone my heart without sacrificing my position?
I don't think I know how to answer that, Your Majesty.
Elizabeth looks in the mirror, lost in thought. With one final tug of the corset, Beth steps away from the queen.
You are ready, my queen.
You may go. I'll be along in a moment.
Scene. Walsingham and Elizabeth sit alone in the Privy Council chamber. In front of them are a small stack of letters. They have grave yet satisfied looks on their faces. In a flurry, Elizabeth enters, followed closely by a concerned Dudley. She stops at the end of the table, places her hands firmly on her hips, and huffs.
Well, what is so important that it could not have waited until the next meeting?
My queen, this will not be easy to hear, but we have concrete evidence of a plot to take your life.
Elizabeth tightens, but she doesn't speak.
We have proof that the person orchestrating the plot is none other than your cousin Mary.
No, stop. I don't want to hear another word.
Your Majesty, I know how difficult it is for you to accept, but something must be done before
I have
she's...
yet to see this concrete evidence you claim to possess, so unless I see it quickly, I will not listen to you ramble on with baseless claims.
Cecil presents the letter to Elizabeth, who reads it fervently. Elizabeth fumes and looks around at the men who surround her.
Did you expect me to look at a page of your cipher notes and send an anointed queen to her death? She is my cousin. I will afford her the same respect I'm sure she would my own person.
Yes, you've never met her.
Elizabeth whips around to face him.
Whose side are you on?
Your Highness, the evidence is before you. I'm afraid there is no doubt of her guilt this time.
This page could easily have been forged. I know you, Francis. You're sneaky. How do I know that you aren't deceiving me?
Your Majesty, you must take this seriously. The threat she poses is quite serious.
Threat? How threatening can she be? She's locked away.
Your Majesty, we are your advisors. We swear to protect you and give honest advice regardless of how displeasing it is to hear.
Walsingham and Cecile look at Elizabeth. She huffs and faces Dudley.
Do you agree with him?
I do.
Elizabeth turns back to Cecil and Walsingham in an angry pout.
Your Majesty?
He is interrupted by Elizabeth turning on her heel and storming out of the room. The men share an exasperated and sympathetic breath. Cecil produces Mary's death warrant from the stack of paper. Elizabeth is sitting at her desk fervently working on one of her Latin translations. She doesn't acknowledge Dudley as he enters the room. Dudley stands by her study desk and looks on, waiting for her to say something. After a tense silence, Dudley finally speaks.
Yes? Bess, you must think rationally.
I must do what? Anything at the behest of the nobleman whom I outrank, I suppose. Is that what England has come to? The monarch can't make any decisions for herself now, can she?
Bess.
Shut up, Dudley. Don't Bess me. Have I no autonomy? Am I supposed to roll over when you all order me to kill my own cousin?
You need to think about your safety. Minnie believes she has a stronger claim to the throne.
What are you saying? That she is the rightful queen? Are you going to try to overthrow me, traitor? Maybe it is your death warrant I should be signing, not hers.
Bess.
I'll hear no more of this. Leave me.
Dudley signs before turning to leave. Just as he reaches the door, he stops and marches back at the desk and firmly places the warrant on the desk in front of Elizabeth. Her eyes meet his, enraged. She furiously signs the warrant and then matches his gaze once more. Dudley doesn't attempt to combat her. He takes the warrant and exits the room. Elizabeth stares at her translations. After a moment, she stands and exits the room as well. New scene. The next morning, the Privy Council is gathered in the chamber. A page boy enters the room in a rush and bows to the table. Apologies, my lords, but Her Majesty requests that the death warrant for the Queen of Scots be sent with me to her chambers at once. The council members react accordingly to the message.
My boy, that is a very important document. We cannot just send it away.
Her Majesty told me to tell you that you might say that. She also instructed me to tell you that if you don't send somebody with the warrant to her study immediately, it's treason.
I'll do it.
Dudley takes the warrant and leaves the chamber. He arrives at Elizabeth's study where she calmly sits working on a translation.
Bess, what is this about?
Lester, you will address me as Your Majesty unless I instruct you that it is otherwise appropriate.
She smiles cunningly as she stands and takes the warrant from his hands. She tears the warrant to shreds and then puts the pieces in her stomach. Dudley watches in an annoyed disbelief. Elizabeth sits back down and continues to work on her translations.
Bess.
You may go.
Dudley holds for a moment, scoffs, and then turns to leave. He pauses in the doorway and looks back at her as if he wants to say something, but ultimately leaves. He returns to the Privy Council chamber where the councillors sit anxiously. Dudley goes to his seat and sits.
Well?
She tore it up.
The council groans. New scene. Elizabeth and Dudley just finishing a walk through the garden. They enter from the outside of the castle, sharing a laugh.
Lester, you fool, that's ridiculous. The Dutch don't think.
They share another laugh, just as Walsingham and Cecile enter from the Privy Council chamber.
Your Majesty, perfect timing. We have an important matter to discuss with you.
Is it so important that it cannot wait until the council is gathered together?
I'm afraid it's a matter of national security, my queen.
Very well. What is this urgent matter that needs my immediate attention and not my attention in less than a day when the Privy Council is once again gathered?
Walsingham hands Elizabeth a document. She reads it passively at first, then intensely. She flares up as she realizes what she is reading. She looks back and forth between the three men.
Sneaky! I'm not signing it.
She shoves the paper at Walsingham and marches off the stage and into the audience. Dudley pursues, grabbing the paper as he makes chase.
Bess, listen to me.
No.
I know you don't but it has to be done. Every moment you delay is a moment you are in mortal danger.
No!
Elizabeth stops and suddenly turns. Dudley almost bumps into her, but stops himself. She snatches the warrant out of Dudley's hands and glares at him. She holds out her hand and waits as he searches his person for a quill. This takes an awkwardly long time. She motions for him to turn around before using his back as a writing surface. She writes hard and makes it hurt. She grabs him by the shoulder and whips him around, pushing the quill and the warrant into his chest. She storms back to the stage as he follows closely in tow. New scene. The Privy Council is gathered in their chambers. All are present, except for the Queen. Walsingham stands and addresses the group.
It is time we address the matter of the execution of Mary, Queen of Scots.
He holds the warrant in his hand and prepares to continue. Elizabeth interrupts him as she bursts into the room.
Stop!
She rushes to Walsingham and pulls the warrant from his hands, lighting it ablaze with one of the candles on the wall. She throws it to the ground, then the whole room watches as it burns. When the burning is finished, she stamps at the flames and turns on her heels to exit the room. The councillors exchange glances for a few minutes before all collapsing into different groans and protests. New scene. Elizabeth and her lady maids are all in their private chambers undressing her to go riding. She is fastening one of her gloves when Bess of Hardwick enters the room.
Your Majesty, the Earl of Leicester.
Elizabeth nods. The lady maids go to the door and let him in. Elizabeth waves her hand and her lady maids leave the room. They all stand in silence.
I know you brought it. We might as well get it over with.
Dudley sighs and pulls out yet another draft of death warrant. She signs it and hands it back to him without looking at him. He turns to leave, but hesitates.
May I touch the Queen?
You may.
Dudley wraps her in a warm hug. They stay there for a moment.
You realize this is only happening to keep you safe.
And now you've pushed it. Out before I change my mind.
Dudley kisses her on the cheek and then exits. Elizabeth touches it, smiles, and finishes with her gloves before exiting as well. New scene. Elizabeth darts into the full Privy Council chamber.
The warrant. I must have it now.
I'm sorry, Your Majesty, but the warrant has already been sent out. I'm afraid it is too late.
Elizabeth collapses in emotional heap. Not long after, however, she snaps up and stares dangerously at all of her counselors.
I am sorry, my queen, but it is in your best interest.
It is your desire for her to die. Yet it is my soul that will ultimately suffer for it.
She storms out of the room. New scene. Elizabeth I stands alone in the middle of an empty stage. She stares straight ahead and doesn't move for an uncomfortable period of time.
I'm dying. I have not slept in 2 weeks. I have not moved nor spoken in the last 15 hours. Most would look at my actions and call me insane, but the truth is, I simply am not ready to die. I am staring into the abyss, and I will be damned if I blink first. I can feel it coming, though. The icy winds of death are drying out my eyes. Dramatic, isn't it? But alas, it is not so. It feels empty. I feel empty. And yet, I cannot identify why. I am one of the most powerful people in the world, but I am missing something. I'm slipping. Gloriana is losing her godhead. The first sign was Essex's sudden rise to fame. He barely saw combat, and they tutored him as their idol. He only went to war because I said he could go to war, and yet the people look to the strong young man as their hero rather than the old queen. The old queen who has looked after this country her entire life. The old queen who gave up any shot she had at a happy and fulfilling life so that her subjects would love her, so they would be safe. Oh. Well, maybe that's it. I was given so many chances at happiness, and I never seemed to have the ability to make it work. Something always came first. Stood in the way. First it was pride, then it was religion, and then treason. Yes, the hero of my little tiff in the Holland tried to raise a coup after his stunning failure in Ireland. It was unsuccessful, of course. He was popular, not powerful, and not nearly important enough to make level-headed people forfeit their own lives for nothing. He was an idiot. An idiot that I funded. They are correct when they say old age makes one foolish. I think it comes from the need to be young again. Although as I think about it, I realize I would never choose to be young again. I was naive, innocent, optimistic. I was never stupid, however, and for that I'm grateful. Or maybe I was. In the realm of men, that is. Not all men, of course. I got rather good at getting what I wanted. But the one front I could never really conquer was romance. I never could make it happen. I am the queen who united a broken country. The queen who fought off scrutiny and scandal and doubt and the Pope. The queen who brought the mighty Spanish to their knees. Twice. Why couldn't I achieve happiness? Oh well, too late now. But I think I'll just stand here a bit longer. If only just to reminisce.
Blackout. End of play.
All right. Very well done. Thank y'all. So if I can get the cast up, crew up, everybody up on the screen. There we are. Hey, all right. Okay. Great. So, yes, fantastic job. Thank y'all so much. What we're going to do now is we're going to start our talkback session. So we're going to be addressing some of the comments, questions that are in the YouTube chat, seeing what comments, questions the cast might have for Chris Brown. But I'd like to start this by asking you, Chris Brown, what was the impetus for this piece? What gave you the idea? Talk a little about the development, just the history of the creation of this piece here.
Okay, here's my whole. I'm gonna try not to make this too crazy long because I can talk for a while, as many of the cast know. We were in that Zoom call for an hour and a half after you left, Jordan. That's what. Okay. Anyway, so the whole thing behind this piece, I've been interested in like monarchical history for a hot second. That's something that's always been fascinating to me. And then I read I was doing some like research in thesis A, like what do I want my project to be? Like what is this for me? and I came across the Bisley Boy theory, which is a theory that Elizabeth, when she was 10, died of the plague in Bisley, and her staff replaced her with the only red-headed person of that age that they could find, and it was a male, like a boy. And the theory goes that he spent his entire life as Elizabeth Tudor. It's like there's no evidence to support it. It's been proven incorrect several different times. Like her ladies' maids would take her sheets to make sure she was still on her period when she was still able to have children. Like, she was very much a female person. But I was like, that's an interesting theory. And then I started reading some of the stuff about how in like her famous Tilbury speech, which is where I got the title, and in some of her addressing Parliament and in some of her private writings, she betrayed a sense of she didn't feel like a woman in 16th century society because of the fact that her expectations as a female and her expectations as a monarch quite often went and so if the concept of gender had been around in the 16th century, we would have viewed her as like a non-binary queer person in the middle somewhere. So I thought, okay, how can I depict that? Because that's super interesting. Here we have one of the most recognizable monarchs in English history who may have been a queer person. Woo! So I was like, okay, how am I going to depict that? So at first I was like, okay, she was a female person, thinking of ways to depict a female non-binary person. And then I realized that the only way to really do that so that audiences who didn't really understand gender and like the non-conformity of it would understand is like to put Elizabeth in pants, and Elizabeth would never have been caught dead in pants in the 16th century. So I said, okay, let's go from the inside out. And that's why I wanted to make the visual aspect more of like a, let's see Elizabeth as completely different from everyone, all of the cis men and all of the cis women in her life. So that's how I came up with the concept of having Elizabeth being portrayed as a male or non-binary queer person, in order to kind of visualize that difference from everyone else. But I didn't want it to be something that it was like harped on or talked about in every scene, because then I would have felt that was heavy-handed, and I didn't want it to be crazy heavy-handed in that way. So I said, okay, let's just not talk about it and have it be a visual thing, just like a queer person existing in their role in society, you know? So that was my inspiration.
Okay, and now for a little bit about your intentions with it. So this was your thesis project.
Yeah.
It's ongoing, and this is going to be made into a musical.
Absolutely.
Correct. Okay, so could you speak a little bit more on that process, where you are in that process, sort of what how you see all of that working?
Yeah. So okay. I don't know if this requires backstory, but I'm going to give it. While I was writing this process, when I started, I didn't originally intend it to be structured the way it is, as like this series of like just snippets from her life that are going to be strung together and by some music that I will write at some point. But I was writing, and Jordan and I were talking about it, and he was like, listen, these scenes are like really good, but like, what's the through line? Like, there's no through line. And I was like, I don't know. And so Jordan actually came up with this idea of having the scenes as vignettes. And so I said, okay. And that little vignette thing solved two of my problems. One, which I think is kind of apparent in the first scenes we listened to, because those are the first ones I read. Beginning into this project, I had trouble separating the part of my brain that wants it to be 100% accurate, 100% to the history, and like not piss off any historians, and then the other part of my brain that's like, you need to take some liberties. Come on, girl. Putting a man in a dress is not enough. So I was like, okay, great. And that moving away from that have to be a timeline structured thing allowed me to look at her life as a whole and say, okay, let's pick out moments there. So I picked out moments where I had the most room for creative liberties that had the most conflict in her life, that kind of all tied together in the realm of her love and marriage and that sort of thing. As far as musical goes, like I mentioned, these scenes are vignettes, and the order we read them, aside for the last two scenes, is the order I wrote them. So that's not the order they're going to end up in the final product. I actually might start with that monologue, which is going to be fun and interesting. We'll play with it. Yeah, so those are going to be like fence posts that are going to be strung together either in action or in theme by the music. So the music's going to be like the glue that holds it all together. So that's where this project's going. I do plan I don't know if I should be saying this, but I'm going to. Anyway, I plan to Lin-Manuel Miranda the shit out of myself in this show. This is going to be my Tony girl. No, I'm kidding. No, but Austin is making me second guess that because he literally murdered it tonight. He was so good. So yeah, that's where I want the project to go. I want this project to be my Tony.
Yes. All right. Well, you are well on your way. Great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of turn it over. I'm going to be just sort of reading some of the comments and stuff, and then I'll be turning it over to Connor, and he's going to be asking some of the questions. So I have some comments. Oh, by the way, cast, Chris Brown, audience, I have a monitor here. So when I look here, even during the feedbacks, I'm not like, I'm not scoffing, I'm not rolling my eyes, I'm checking the, you know what I mean? So it's somebody like, man, that Jordan's an asshole. No, I'm not. I'm checking the stuff here. So, Elizabeth as a drag queen is a cool concept. And again, we're reading these comments and questions just directly, right? Just sort of remember. I love Elizabeth and Dudley. Quoting, I will not Catherine of Aragon myself, laughing my ass off. A lot of gasps, right? Ouch. Stuff like that. Quoting the line, bitch, no way. Things like that. Look at all these amazing alumni. Eat 'em up cats and whatnot. Elizabeth is killing it. We have hand claps. We have fire. Pretty sure that's good. Yeah, that's good. Thumbs up. Things like that. Act 2 goes hard. Yeah.
I was much more in the pocket when I was writing Act 2.
Yeah.
So that,
there was a moment where we had some difficulties and there was no video for like the beginning of Act 2, but a testament to your writing, Chris Brown. Even with no video, this scene is intense. So yeah, that was Mary Beaton. Mary Fleming has me in stitches. So Maddie, there you go. And just a bunch of, again, at the end, just a bunch of claps and the hands up and all that kind of stuff. So really fantastic job, Chris Brown. So now I'm going to turn it over to Connor to ask the questions. And while these questions are for you, Chris Brown, to take and then apply to your subsequent drafts, cast, I do want to invite you, if you have an addition, you know what I mean, or an additional response or something you'd like to add, another question that you might have, that you want to direct to Chris Brown, now is your time to do that as well. So Connor, take it away with the YouTube questions, sir.
All right. Also, just to follow up on the 2 monitors thing, I also have a second monitor that I've been looking at for comments. So our first question says that Elizabeth as a drag queen is so cool. I'm wondering what led you to that concept, and I think you already covered that, but maybe brush it up again.
I do want to clarify that Elizabeth, in this sense, is not a drag queen. Well, like, physically, that person would be in drag, but the Elizabeth as the character, the way I envisioned it in my mind is we are seeing it from the inside. So we are seeing Elizabeth from the inside out as her different from the rest of society. But Elizabeth and all the characters around her on the stage are viewing her as a female. So they're not changing the way they interact with her or anything like that. it's just so that character, while the actor is in drag, the character is more like a queer person we're seeing from the inside. Yeah.
Awesome. The next question is: Does casting Elizabeth as a drag queen and then writing all other female roles as meddling and scheming with a stark shift in language for all their scenes undercut the power of her place as a female ruler? That one's kind of loaded.
No, I love that. Can you read it to me one more time?
Will do. Does casting Elizabeth as a drag queen and then writing all other female roles as meddling and scheming with a stark shift in language for all their scenes undercut the power of her place as a female ruler?
I don't think so, because I think when you look at, I think that's just like for the Scots. The Scots, we don't know a lot about Mary and Elizabeth's relationship, other than it was stressful because they never met and all they did was exchange writing notes. And of course there was some tension there because Elizabeth kept Mary Stuart in prison for 18 and a half years, which was fun. But I think that's just, that point of view was one for comedy to make the four Marys kind of like these characters. But it was also, I wanted to play up the potential like feud for the throne, because that's what Elizabeth, especially by the end, would have probably been thinking about Mary and her ambitions. She would have been probably thinking that this is absolutely a threat. She's actively trying to take my throne, because that's what her male court would have been telling her. Because of the bloodline, because of the tension between Catholics and Protestants in England at that time, Mary Stuart was very much a threat. So in order to make sure that nothing really happened, Elizabeth and Mary couldn't really have been friends at that time, because I think their friendship would have undermined Elizabeth's rule even more, because of the way religion and sexism would have worked at that time. But there is one female character who is not scheming and undercutting, and that is Bess of Hardwick, who is very supportive, loyal Protestant Englishwoman. So yeah, that's that. Does anyone else want to, like, what else? What do you think? How did it read?
I know we talked about this a little bit, but we've talked about. I'm Amanda. I lived with Chris all last year, and Chris and I would frequently have talks about how historically everyone was very like conniving and scheming in the monarchs, and everything was always, there was always a fight, there was always a underlying intention, there was always some sort of scheming going on behind all of the interactions between the monarchs and the noble people. And so while I can see how maybe it might be portrayed as like all of these females are conniving and bitching, and then, you know, the only other female is in drag, you know, other than Bess, I think that might have just been a general tone for the whole era. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong there, but
I don't think you're wrong.
yeah,
Sorry, I was reaching.
you're good.
Physically reaching.
But at least for me, that's how it read. But I totally see how maybe it could be taken some other way.
Paul, what do you think?
My only question then, going forward, after seeing like comments about like, oh, Elizabeth is a drag queen, I think to a queer audience, like seeing this, they would like immediately get it. But just especially if it's like a situation where it's not really talked about, that it's supposed to be someone who's male presenting in drag, like regular straight audiences, which I mean, we've talked about the demographic too, but like regular straight audiences might go and be like, oh yes, queen, work, slay, drag queen, you know? And I think there's probably like a way to like clarify that it's not like a drag queen just for the straights more.
Yeah,
so.
I think I'm gonna have a lot of room to play, because I know half of Act 1 is getting the chop after tonight. I'm cutting like 5 characters. I'm gonna cut this hoe up. So I'll have room, especially in the script and in the music, to throw hints, play with that kind of stuff, and still hopefully not get too heavy-handed. Yeah. Yes.
Would you ever consider, and I'm just a bystander who's asking a question, I'm not trying to step on any toes, especially with your intention and all of your reasoning and things like that, but would you ever consider opening up the casting of Elizabeth to be a woman, or do you want it to just be male presenting in drag?
I don't know that I would ever open it up to cisgendered women. I would love to see a trans woman's take on this. Yeah, but I think having early process, I think having a cisgendered woman play Elizabeth would undermine the visual the visual vision that I have for it. But we'll see. Who knows where this is going to go?
Yeah, because I mean, there's bio queens and things like that. So I know that's a world that exists as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to ask if maybe far down the road you won't roll over in your grave if somebody casts Elizabeth as a woman.
Hey, if I'm already dead, go for it.
All right, our next question says, I wonder what the language shift of the Marys is trying to portray.
I don't know. I just thought that was funny. That's all it was. I was writing it and I was thinking like, this is kind of dreary. Let's lighten the mood. And so I was like, what if I just had these like crazy like characters? That's why I had them all standing in a bevel in their first. Because can't you just picture that on stage? 4 people behind just obnoxious bevels. Because I think that's so funny. Yeah, that was the purpose. That's it.
if I may add something to that. I remember Chris Brown when you were first like putting, you know what I mean, pen to paper on this, and when you decided to make it the series of vignettes. You were kicking around the idea of having each one of the vignettes have like its own distinct sort of style, right? And then flair. And I think maybe that's sort of where, you know what I mean, like the Marys, and it's like, so we have all this sort of stitching, right, of these vignettes in Act 1, and then they all sort of start coming together, right, in Act 2. So I wonder if that's something that could be leaned into a little bit more, or just as, and I know adding the music to this thing is going to elevate, you know, all this stuff to a whole new level as well. So, but yeah, it's
absolutely. Yeah, I think I actually had forgotten that I did that, so thank you for that. But I'm thinking, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, and I'll have more room to play with that since I'm cutting scenes up. So, yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna play with that.
They're very Hercules muses to me. Yeah, that's the feel that I got from them, and like it's truly like show stealing characters.
Yeah.
I mean, I just had a fan and people were like, yes, queen, like, you know. So I would love to see where these ladies evolve to, especially in that fierce bevel, and like they could have a freaking quartet and just, I don't know how many of them there are, but just are there 4?
4 and Mary Stuart. So
yeah.
5.
I mean, you could just, I won't say I'm in love the shit out of all of them.
Right. Too bad they're antagonists. I think I'm really funny, guys. Thank you.
All right, the next question is there any information / characterization left out in the book that you intend to add with music?
My internet went choppy. Can you do that one more time?
Yeah, no problem. Is there any information / characterization left out in the book that you intend to add with music?
I'm so sorry. Once more.
Is there any information / characterization left out in the book that you intend to add with music?
Okay. Are there any events that I left out of the book that I intend to add in with music?
Characterization / information.
Love that. Okay. Cool, because my internet's still being choppy. Hello? Okay, we're back. Great. Yeah, there actually were a lot. I had to leave a lot out. Because especially in the later part of her life, we got up to the majority of scenes that you saw got up to around 1588. The only one that would have taken place after 1588 is her monologue, which took place in 1603, because that's the year she died. But she had an entire different love interest and more drama with him, and then his failed Ireland campaign and his failed rebellion against her that I kind of alluded to in that monologue. But there's a lot there. It just felt like with all the beginning scenes that I still had in there was a lot. So definitely her relationship with Robert Devereux. I either want to dive into that in the music or use some of the free space I'm going to have cleared up to focus on that. And then, of course, I want to turn her Tilbury speech, which is the one where she said, I know I have the body of but a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and a king of England of that. That very career-defining speech that she made right before her army decimated the Spanish Armada and moved England into the global superpower territory. So, yeah, definitely Tilbury speech, Spanish Armada, and her relationship with Robert Devereux. And then probably in the music I'll go a little bit more in depth into her relationship with the Duke of Anjou as well. But definitely those things. Did you get that? Or was it choppy?
We got it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
We're good. The next question, I think it's a question, says, I'm also wondering if making Elizabeth a drag queen might be missing a fantastic opportunity for a strong female lead.
I thought about that a lot too. Because a lot of her, one of the big statements of her reign was that she was the world's first long-reigning solo female monarch of that, because there had been smaller kingdoms that had one before. But she was the first major superpower, solo female monarch, yada yada. So I thought about that a lot, and I was like, am I really doing a disservice to the character? But I figured that this was the best way for me to showcase the internal battle that Elizabeth was having. Because by virtue of her position, she really wouldn't have felt... If gender had been a live concept in the 16th century, I doubt she would have identified as a cis woman because of the virtue of her position. So I thought about it. I was like, maybe I'm doing a disservice to the character or to the real figure, but I figured that this was the best way to showcase her queer identity.
Okay. The next question, and I think you've kind of discussed this, but this talks a little bit more about regional differences.
Yeah.
This asks, what was the thought process going into the dramatic shift in language between specifically England and Scotland?
Yeah, that was, again, I thought it was funny.
And then the next question is, can you speak towards...
And can you just imagine Mary Seton just walking in with a letter what's that? A letter? Just in that really ugly, thick Scottish brogue. That would be so funny. Okay, so that's the whole reason. But I'll try to put more thought into it.
Okay, the next question asks, can you speak towards the musical stylings that you had in mind for what you want the musical to sound like?
Kind of, but not really. I'm definitely thinking more of a. I don't want to say contemporary musical theater because then everyone's going to think like Be More Chill, Dear Evan Hansen, and that's not what I want. But I'm definitely thinking something like a, I don't know, pop rock musical theater meets like if Sondheim had written the music for Hedwig or something. You know, like some weird, crazy mashup moment there, but definitely more, you know, energy, because some of these scenes are kind of heavy. Hello?
Yes. Mo, did you have an addition to that? Okay, good.
There's a question back to when y'all were talking about different styles for each vignette. I was like, ooh, music possibilities. Because like when I think of Dudley and Elizabeth, I think of like, ooh, like Bryan Adams. Have you ever really loved a woman? Like 80s, like, ooh, like soft, you know, gooey. And then I think like Fierce, like the best Tina Turner for like the girls from Scotland. Like it's just, what ideas were you thinking of when it comes to playing with that style element, but with music?
I did think about like, what if I had like this pop number and then like this Sondheim number right after it. Sondheim style, not of course Sondheim. That would be fun though. What if I could, hey, someone send an email to Stephen Sondheim for me. Anyway, tangent. But I was thinking the only like really like picture image I had in my head for a musical number at this point was Elizabeth like right after that Bess of Hardwick scene, like reclaiming her beauty to herself, like starting out as this ballad but then turning into this like disco production number, which I just think is so fun. Like everyone rips open their skirts and they have like, and like leg, you know. So that's that was like before I even started writing the script, that was like the very first image I had was like Elizabeth Tudor in an open hoop skirt in a kick line to disco music. So that's where we're starting with the music. Are you there? Oh, yeah. We're back. Okay.
Yeah.
Hit me with another one, girls. Let's go.
Okay, the next question is there any of Elizabeth's female support system that we could see more of that would help counter this idea / perception that all the women are against her?
A lot of the women in her life kind of were against her, though. So I don't know what I could do about that. Because, like, you have her older sister, who is, like, the direct antithesis of her. Her stepmother, Catherine Parr, who started out as a really positive influence, but after the Thomas Seymour scandal, ended up, like, throwing Elizabeth out of her household. She, like, made Elizabeth move out because of suspicious rumors about a romantic relationship with her husband. And then we have Mary Stuart, who started out as this, like, maybe we can try to be cordial, but ended up with, like, politics and religion and public opinion. The women were kind of pit against each other. So I guess I could lean more into the two women trying to make it work. I just thought with my initial trying to be funny and interesting, I leaned more into the ambiguity of the rumors that Mary had been trying to usurp Elizabeth from the throne and all that kind of thing. Sort of tried to play into that resentment of being in prison for 18 and a half years. But yeah, there were a lot of, like, most of the powerful women in Elizabeth's life weren't her friends. which I think in the 16th century may have been part of the influences of her identity as not a woman in that society, because she didn't have a lot of close female confidants other than Kat Ashley and to some extent Bess of Hardwick. And most of the people whispering in her ear, most of her advisors, were men, and so she started, because of the virtue of her being the solo monarch, having to take the role of basically a king. She, because of her job, must have started putting herself in that mindset of like, I'm a man, or like, I'm not a woman, you know? So I can definitely try to make this not look like an anti-woman musical, which I promise it's not. But yeah, given how she didn't have a lot of powerful female allies, I don't really know what I can do.
So this next question actually kind of builds off of the positive side of that. They ask, do you think that Bess of Hardwick could be a bigger character in the show?
Absolutely. The reason she's not in as many scenes is because I started writing her in late in the process, but I absolutely want Bess of Hardwick involved more. Because she was, like I said, one of those positive influence in Elizabeth's life, where she's this example of this beautiful, popular socialite who's also incredibly intelligent. Like, Bess of Hardwick was very intelligent, was in charge of all of her own finances, kept herself very well put together until the end of her life, when, of course, she died. That sounded like it was a punchline, but she did die. But yeah, I think I would love to include Bess of Hardwick more. She was in so little because I started writing her in so late. I also think, two things. One, cast, if you have anything to say about anything, please jump in, because I feel like I'm talking a lot. But two, I think the reason it looks like there's so many women against Elizabeth is because 4 of those women are Mary Stuart's, like, close confidants, close friends, like, grew up with her. They were with her in France when she was married to the Dauphine and then the Queen of France, and they were with her through her whole Scotland journey. Although I'm not sure all 4 of them were in prison with her, because I think Mary Seton was dead before that. But I'll have to go double check my dates there. But I think it's because they were so close to Mary, and they must have turned into like a hive mind by the end of it, that it looks like there's 5 women against her when it's really like one congression of shared opinion.
Okay. And is that it for the questions, Connor?
I believe so. There were a few comments that weren't addressed that are not phrased as questions. Just like requests about like hearing more about certain characters.
Like who?
Find the first one. The first one was... Francis. So like build up for Francis's character, maybe seeing more of that.
Which one? Which Francis? There were 2. I'm gonna assume the Duke of Anjou, the love
during the first act.
Yeah, it's the Duke of Anjou. Okay. Yeah, I definitely want more of him in there, and that's something I'll absolutely delve into in the music. Now that we're talking about it, I'm thinking of this huge, like, failed love number where Elizabeth's singing, and then, like, she's singing with Dudley and Robert Devereux and the Duke of Anjou, like, all together. But yeah, I am thinking of a musical number highlighting their relationship. Because he was the person she got closest to marrying. She was so close. She was very close. But damn Catholicism.
And then the next comment that I can find says, I wish I would have heard a bit about her struggle with gender inside the show.
Yeah, the more I'm hearing the critiques, the more I'm hearing the comments, the more I think I need to have at least address it in the dialogue, so that it doesn't get misconstrued as like, you know, the whole anti-woman drag queen moment. Yeah, that's gonna happen. Yes, Maddie, right.
I had to find my mouse. I was gonna say this earlier, but you were on a roll. Just call you Butter because you were on a roll. Anyway, I
was on a roll. Ew. Sorry, that was late.
I do want to commend you for having this strong road that you're going down, and that you're not a male writing about the female experience. I'm going to be honest, that's a real big pet peeve of mine, like flashback to 5 women wearing the same dress. So I totally commend you for sticking to this through line and adding things about the gender struggle, because I think that will be really telling for your eye and making it your production. I was going to say play. This is not a play. Your production. So, I mean, that's just my opinion in 2 cents.
Thank you. I love that.
Okay. Yes, thank you all for those questions and comments and such. Now I'd like to, cast, y'all killed it. Y'all, this was the first time that Chris Brown got to hear these characters, unless there was a reading that I wasn't invited to, which wouldn't be the first. Now I'm good. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask you guys, what was it like to portray these characters, get not only in the mind of these people, but also in the world of Chris Brown. So just sort of a free for all. Whoever'd like to unmute themselves and talk about, you just go for it.
I love the world of Chris Brown. I love what goes inside your head. I love how much you love the monarchies, and it was so fun to get to read 3 different characters. Yeah, I think you're a fantastic writer, and you really have such a distinct style, and it's so captivating.
To add on to that, I was kind of saying yesterday that, like, history is drama. Like, there's so much drama within history. And so to see some of it, like, expressed in, like, modern phrases was really interesting to, like, see the contrast between, like, things that actually did happen, but, like, in a way that we would say it now. I thought that was really interesting.
I think this is really good. I think that Austin did a fantastic job, but I think you, Lin-Manuel, in this, I think would be fantastic. And having you front this, I think would be really powerful. When I was younger, I didn't know that people got married outside of love. Like, I thought that's the reason everyone got married. And, like, my acting teacher told me that wasn't true, like, in the middle of class once, and, like, I cried, because, like, I'm like, wait, what? And so it's so funny to, like, be a part of this and, like, watch how, like, marriage becomes this very, distinct, specific thing that has all of these hierarchies and these weight that have nothing to do with, like, if you want to be with someone. For me, it was really like, holy shit, this is, like, a whole, like, dance and, like, a thing to figure out and, like, a ploy, and it's, like, disheartening, but at the same time, like, it's cool to watch how people have to maneuver, things in order, to be perceived in certain ways and such. I think this is great. I think this is sick. I hope that you put a lot of good energy and time into this, because I think this is something that could benefit not only you, but, like, others. I think this is just a great piece of work.
First of all, really enjoyed this. I'm really excited to see how it builds, especially with your chopping and your additions and your ultimately music, because especially things about historical characters that are so far from you, so far from the present. They almost feel like a storybook rather than their decisions actually really impacted where you are today, right? As real people. And so I think in this first draft, when you go back to it, I think you really set yourself up for success of the vulnerability of it all, the vulnerability of this gender exploration, this identity, what it means really to be a female monarch or a female presenting monarch, with cis men meddling. How much meddling and how much influence has that had through her entire life? And just like female relationships, people pointed out, like, why do the women seem catty? Well, the reality is, like, the letters spoke for themselves, and things like that. So having humanity and reality and vulnerability for, those in Scotland and those in England, and how much do cis men meddle? So I'm excited.
I love this, love everything about this. Talking about the world of Chris Brown, like, this is the world of Chris Brown. I've seen Chris Brown as an infant and then grow into this fabulous human being.
Don't talk about Chris Brown as an infant.
Infant. And I've told Chris many, many times how proud I am of the human that he is. And this is just a really good showcase of it. And to my characters specifically, you made a statement to me earlier about, you're on this side for me, it's probably somebody else to everyone else. Anyway, you made a statement earlier about how each Mary speaks for themselves. Like, you really get a good sense of which Mary is what. Like, obviously Mary Beaton is the girl, okay, like, listen, ma'am, this thing. And Mary Fleming is the one who pushes the plot forward and saying, like, okay, well, what are your other options? And then Mary Livingston is kind of in tune with Mary Fleming, maybe a little ruder at times, and Mary Seton is dumb. And that is really great as an actor, because there's not much work to be done because it's done for you in the writing, which is always really nice. B, I still got to learn about these really cool women that, don't have a lot of history written about them, but I saw some pictures of them and they were fabulous, and that was really great, and I learned something today. So yeah, I think that each individual character is really well done, and that's something that's really hard to get across in a first draft.
Speaking of characters, I need to commend you on the relationships between the characters. You nailed that so hard, because not only did I see it with like tone, shifting, beats, all that, but their word choice and their length, like their syntax, things changed whenever certain characters entered and certain people exited, especially with Elizabeth and Dudley. I feel like out of all the relationships that you highlighted on, that was the one that was most highlighted, and for a very good reason. And I'm like, it disarmed her, and it was so fascinating, because we saw the human, the vulnerability, which she had throughout all the scenes, but especially in that scene. I hope I'm making sense. Relationships, key, on point, period.
I'd just like to say that just the things that you're exploring with this show, like the themes that you're tackling of, like, who you're perceived as versus how you actually feel, and this whole idea of what's being expected of you versus what you want to do versus what you need to do, like all of these very complicated like situations to be in that I feel like a lot of people go through regardless of however they identify is these very universal things that you're exploring that I don't feel like a lot of people will talk about a whole lot.
And I think the way you're exploring them and portraying through this lens is very beautiful and very effective. And I just want to commend you on that. Like, these are some really great things you're exploring with this show.
Okay. Well, I guess on that note from the Queen, we will depart. But yeah, so Chris Brown, you got a lot of work ahead of you, Bubba. You know what I mean? So make sure you take what you've learned, what you've heard here today, and apply that. Please continue working on this. You truly have something special here. I knew that the moment you pitched it as your thesis. Don't let this, don't let the online reading be where this thing just kind of stops. It's the internet and it's forever. I get that, but I mean, this needs to be, you know what I mean. Cast, again, thank you so much for volunteering your time and talent, breathing these characters to life, and just supporting Chris Brown in this endeavor. Connor, for being a digital stage manager. We didn't know what the hell a digital stage manager was a month ago, but now, you know what I mean, we're making that work. So good job. And Chris Brown, thank you for sharing this work. You are missed as a student, you are valued as a friend, and you are revered as an artist. And thank you for sharing your work with us. Okay. See y'all later. Catch you on the next one. Wednesday nights we'll be doing another read. Bye now.